Oh my God. Obviously, it's not going to fit in a current configuration. It's just, oh, actually. Hey guys, 2022 was a very busy year for Fractal, and they wanted to start 2023 with a bang. With actually this case, it's called Terra. It is a small form factor case that we received earlier this year, and then it was snatched away from us. It was called back because it did have an issue, but now it's back and we're eager to test it out. We're going to talk about the recall and also all the features of it and building it a bit later on. Let's just start opening up and go through it. It comes in with this little envelope. They basically go and say that this has been the most challenging small form factor build they've made, or case. And there's a little bit of a draft designs on here, which looks really, really cool. Doesn't really add any practical value to the case, but it's a nice little touch. It feels very personal. Then we get the usual documentation. So the user guide, it's a thick one. Because it's a small form factor build, there are a lot of different just advice and optional features in it, which we'll go through in a bit. And now for the main case itself. It's actually pretty heavy. The reason it's quite heavy is because it's using 8mm anodized aluminum, or aluminum for the American friends out there. And this is a sandwich style case which has 10.4 liter volume. So it's quite small, but it is supposed to be able to fit a full-size 3-slot graphics card, or you can actually fit in a larger cooler. And we'll talk a bit more about that in a bit. It comes in 3 colors. There is graphite, silver, and this jade color. I actually really like this color. It's different. One thing I'm getting sick of is every case looking the same. They're all black or white, and they all have the same plastic. Fractal's going kind of a different route. This is small form factor, so the price is very different as with all the cases out there. So they've gone with premium build, premium materials, and a little wooden accent on the front as well. And we also have a little, probably faux leather, maybe real leather, probably faux actually, leather tab here to pull off the top panel. So let's get into it. Let's open it up and see what we actually got inside. So all of these panels do come off. To remove the side panels, there is actually a little pull tab on the inside here, and it comes out. So this is solid, and this one can be moved in and out. So it's quite mechanical, quite interesting. So the same for the other side. Out and pull it out. The finish is very nice. We've got a little Fractal logo on the side here. Is it the same on both? No, only one side has the logo. It's quite minimalist. On the inside is the GPU side, which kind of slot it in here and you'll just have intake from the side. And on the opposite side is the motherboard side. And as you may have noticed, this is a PCIe expansion cable, and it's clearly designed in such a way that you have your motherboard inverted upside down. Therefore, the PCIe expansion will be at the top. Naturally, with all Fractal cases, we get out a little accessory box, and in here we have quite a few things actually. So we have all the screws. Fractal, can you please start using reusable bags or just put them all into one bag? You know, save the planet and stuff. Also got a little 2.5-inch SSD mount, a cloth, because you don't want to clean this after you're done, and some Velcros as well as some just cable ties. You also have the standoffs. Right, let's finish going around the case. So on the front here, we have 2 USBs. So we have USB 3 as well as USB 3.2 Gen 2, the 10 gigabit version with fast charge in Type-C. To keep this case nice and neat, it actually has a power supply extension cable. So you basically plug in your power supply at the back here, and the cable is routed in such a way that it comes back over here. Now, the most important part, or the thing that makes this case very unique, it is a bit of a transformer. What you can do, and I'm going to just turn it this way, these 2 things here, and there's 2 more screws at the bottom. What you can do is, in the sandwich design, make it go up and down. So if you want to have a larger graphics card, but you're okay to sacrifice the space for the CPU cooler, you can lift it up and push it up closer to this edge. if you have a smaller graphics card or a thinner graphics card, you can actually push it towards the graphics card and put a bigger cooler in. So it's a bit more flexible. As far as the cooler is concerned, you can put in an SFX and SFX-L power supply. But for the power supply, if you go with SFX-L, you cannot have a bottom mounted fan or an SSD on the side here. So that's just something to consider. For SSD mounts, there are two locations. There's one slot underneath here, underneath the power supply. The second SSD slot is even more funky. You literally take this cable out from here, because you don't need it in here, and you put an SSD in here and just use these Velcros to hold it in place. It's actually brilliant, because SSDs don't move. They don't really need any retention and stuff. Half my SSDs in my servers for many years have been just laying there holding by the cables. Later been upgraded with double-sided sticky tape. That's a genuine upgrade. But yeah, this case is kind of funky. Depending on what you put in it, there are some restrictions. I've got some notes here. For the graphics card, the maximum GPU size is 322 mil long by 72 mil wide, while being less than 131 mil tall. You can also have it up to 145 mil tall with the height of under 62. For the CPU cooler, you can go with 77 mil CPU cooler in CPU mode, so when we have it at the maximum CPU capacity, so you have it biggest size on the CPU, small size on the graphics card. Or you can have it 48 mil max when it's like the smallest, and with GPU mode being the biggest. There are, as I mentioned, two dedicated SSD slots. Let's now talk about the problem that Fractals had. So when they released their Ridge case, they actually found in certain scenarios their PCIe extension cable was not working correctly, so it was causing some issues. And they did send out a recall on that and they started working on it, and it seems that they've used the same cable in this case. So what they actually had to do is just recall it, go back, have it all fixed, test it, and reship them out for new release now. This was supposed to be out, I believe, in February, but I actually really appreciate it. I think Fractal's done above and beyond in comparison to some other manufacturers by taking it on their chin, getting it fixed, and sending out a product which should be working well. And we'll test that out and see, if we have any issues with the PC extension or any other issues with this case. But this is not the first time where they had an issue. They turned up and said, we have an issue, and fixed it. I think companies should do this more often, where they own up to their mistakes, because it does not make them look bad. I think long term, it makes them look that they have, a soul, and they actually want to look after their customers. I think I trust more the companies that make mistakes and own up to them than the ones that just secretly hide it and we never find out. And 5 years later, we're like, oh, my case burnt out or graphics card burnt out, and what's the reason? So good job, Fractal. I definitely give you kudos for that. Next, let's just build in it and see what's up. There's actually one more interesting thing. In this case, depending on your setup, so you can actually mount a 120 mil radiator if you have a very short graphics card. So the graphics card needs to be less than 200 mil in length. So I actually want to double check something. We have this new Radeon 7600. It is small, it's two-fan design, but I believe it's just a little bit too long. So it's 204 mil. So I think that's not going to fit. But the idea behind it is, if you were to place your graphics card in here, there should have been enough space to put a radiator right here. And then go around and put your tubes for your AAO. But in this case, I think this graphics card is a little bit too long. But it's like, if it was this, but without the shroud at the end, this may have been actually good enough. In our case, we use a few cards. Let me just quickly see. So if you go with a more mid-range card like this, 4070, the Founders Edition, which are actually really compact. They're only 2-slot design. So you can easily slot it in here. You've got plenty of space. You actually have loads of space for any cable management and whatnot. That's no problem. But if you go with the partner cards, they come in this size. And I think it's going to fit. Oh my God. Obviously, it's not going to fit in a current configuration. It's just, oh, actually, check this out. I think it's going to fit. One comment I've made about these cards is that Asus has made this particular 4060 Ti 3.15 slots. It's 0.15 slots normally too big, but I think in here, if you check this out, that's like in place now. Let me just do a quick test fit and see if it's snug. It's touching it, but this isn't fully screwed in. So if it's screwed in like this, this is actually fitting in. Full size, huge RTX card. This is going to be fun. I look forward to building in this now. Right, next, I'm going to be building this. I'll see what works, what doesn't, and just provide you some guidance or what's the best you can do with this. I think we're going to have enough space to move this slightly that way to give this card a bit more space in between the side panel, but I'm already really impressed. This is a very small case and things fit very snugly. When I said snugly, I lied. There's actually loads of space here if you measure properly. As I always say, measure twice and build once. Ensuring your GPU and CPU coolers fit is vital, and you want to have some extra space here. To avoid any nasty surprises, plan ahead and do a test fitting. Aim for fingers breadth between GPU and the side panel. This gives your system room for optimal performance. Now, if you're opting for smaller cards like 7600 or 4070, you're in luck. These cards slide into the stock config like a dream. For larger triple slot cards or the beastie 4090, it's a bit of a squeeze. They do fit, but they'll leave a little to no space for intake. Here's a fair warning though. If you're thinking of using the stock 4-way power splitter with the 4090, you won't be able to close the case. You're better off getting an angled adapter or opting for custom cabling. To adapt the case for the GPU of your choice, Fractal has provided the neat solution. You have to remove the 4 screws holding the spine and slide it towards the GPU or the CPU side. Fractal even has numbered markers here for easy adjustment. We tried out position 6 and it gave us enough space to safely install the 4090 FE or equivalent with about half a finger space for air circulation. The CPU side also requires careful planning because the space can be tight with a large GPU in place. Stock cooler may be a tight squeeze, but we went with an SFF cooler from Silverstone, which provided a comfortable fit. Let's get into the assembly. Start with removing the GPU bracket with the cable and then set up the motherboard on a table with all of its components. Then attach the cooler. Make sure to be mindful of cable management. It's crucial in SFF builds to avoid clutter and maintain optimum airflow. Once the motherboard is ready, install the I/O shield, followed by the motherboard itself. Now remove the PSU bracket and decide on its orientation. If you mount the PSU in a more traditional way and you're rocking a flow-through designed for the GPU, be aware. The GPU will blow air into the back of the PSU, potentially creating a hot air pocket. Fortunately, Fractal foresaw this and included 2 sets of standoff screws to offset the PSU and create a gap between the PSU and the GPU. We took the less conventional route and installed the other opposite way around, where the GPU hot air is channeled through the PSU and then expelled out the top. Do this at your own risk. Before you mount the PSU, remember to plug in all the required cables. Trust me, you'll thank me later. Once that's sorted, you can plug in the PSU extension cable and you're ready to go on that front. Fractal's manual suggests the possibility of installing a fan below the PSU. We used an SFX-L unit which fits in tightly, but doesn't leave any space for a fan below without jamming cables in an uncomfortable way. For the GPU, just install it to the bracket and then put the bracket in the case. We decided on the 4070 FE in the end, and that fits in easily. I actually first plugged in the extension cable to the motherboard, then tightened everything up. For ease of use, place the case on its side and put in the 3 screws. After all the components are snugly in place, it's time to tackle cable management. On the CPU side, there's a gap between the motherboard and the power supply to stop some of the cables. And for the case cables, like the USB and power, you can route them around the power supply itself and plug them into the board. And there you have it. Your SFF PC is assembled. Now, time to seal it up. For the side panels, remember one tip. The front clip is stationary and the back one pulls. Align the front, adjust the back and push on the bottom to close. Have a look at this finished case. It's a beauty, isn't it? But let's talk about performance. Considering its SFF nature, I was pleasantly surprised. Yes, there are some sacrifices and they are well managed with a bit of tuning. The CPU was undervolted and a slight adjustment to the curve applied. The cooler fan was tuned down, and yet the system was able to hold its ground remarkably well. Under FOMARK and Prime 95 stress test, the 5600X maxed out within 15 minutes, but the GPU still had some headroom. This was all done under 29.5 degrees Celsius ambient temperature. Under full load, the CPU did dip down to low 3.7 GHz, but the GPU held strong. Noise levels under maximum stress test topped out at 50.3 dBA, but during gaming the noise was more consistent and hit manageable 47.7 dBA. Yes, it's not whisper quiet, but the medium pitch noise was not obtrusive. Performance in games like Formula 1 2022 with maxed out 4K settings and ray tracing enabled was impressive, all thanks to DLSS 2.0. Here, both GPU and CPU did not hit their temperature limits, which in turn meant they were not throttling down, as you can see on this frequency graph. The CPU is able to boost way past 4 GHz even with the undervolt. Which brings us to the final element, the price. And honestly speaking, at $179.99 it is an expensive unit, considering that it's just a shell without any fans or any other special features. It is clearly meant for the high-end builder. Regardless of this, I really like how it looks, but I do hate that there is no option to have a custom water cooling build within it. I feel this is a lost opportunity. What do you guys think? Could this be the new king of air-cooled small form factor cases? I hope you found this useful. If you want to check out any of the items covered in the video, the links are in the description below. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to smash that thumbs up and subscribe for more. We'll see you guys in the next one.